So this one's about hit songs and hit music, and I do a lot of research on songs. I like songs, and I think they mostly stand the test of time, no matter what kind of song. And that's because something is said in the song, and it really doesn't matter what instruments they used and all this stuff. It's like people can look past all these things, and plus the songs can be redesigned and remashed and remixed and upmixed and brought into the retrospectively updated versions. But I was thinking about one attribute of things that make a hit song. I haven't even really delved into the books on this, but I would imagine something like this would be in that kind of a book. If you think about some hit songs, they take a caricature of the artist, where you have all of these basic things that the artist does very well, and he likes to do them or she likes to do them. And what they do in their normal music is they are doing etudes where they're developing this thing that they like to do. So if it's funk, they're doing like super duper funky stuff and always going crazy over the top. Whereas the hit song, it seems like it's more of a muscular flex, where they have achieved such a great ability to do their own thing so well that they make a caricature of themselves through this pop creation of their own like repertoire. And so an example is James Brown and it's I Feel Good. If you've ever heard that, of course you have, then you will hear what James Brown does. But he did a lot more artistic stuff than just that. But the point of that is you can get an idea without going too crazy. And it's developed for a broader audience. There's nothing too risque to say sexually. There's nothing in terms of expletives. There's just a catchy way of going about it. It's got that I Feel Good hook. So it took all the attributes that James Brown developed, his funky way of rhythm, his funky way of even singing. The man created rap, in my opinion, from what I'm hearing out of this guy. And it took all those elements, but it made them, through the dilution process into a pop piece, it made them more palatable and sort of linear. Now, they're not better, but they give you a basic overview of what he really was all about. And, it's really critical for an artist to think about these kinds of things, because we spend so much time making sounds to please ourselves, and we end up off in our own worlds that it's incredible work, but at the same time it's harder for the masses to understand what we're doing. And maybe some people pick it up later on down the line, but that's more of the the youthful journey of discovery of music. And a lot of people aren't going to take the time when they get older to rediscover all of the just massive amounts of music that are available. I've been listening to music my whole life on this world, and I'm always blown away by how much more there is than I could ever find. And it's good. It's not even junk. I mean, the stuff that I produced is, to me, it's mediocre, but it was just to do the work of, working with the industry. And I never really captured what I really wanted to set out to do yet. And it's still something I always work on and work towards. But because of the politics of the music industry, every artist gets thrown through for a whirlwind of problems because of their weird structure of the music industry, which is very badly run and has a very bad business structure, to say the least. But as you can listen to my repertoire, you might hear maybe 1% of it you might actually think is interesting. But, all of it meant something to me. It was a development in something. It was a research into something. Mainly it was a creative process where I heard something and then I, ran with that and I tried to nudge. Because really the game of music and music creation is a game of nudging. one artist does things where he nudges something one little way, and then another artist hears that, and he picks up on the soundbite, and he says, let me keep nudging. And so he nudges and nudges and nudges. And a great example is, like jazz. People think that of jazz as like this basic, wild playing on wild chords, but there's so much going on with jazz that in terms of forging solid structures from abstractions in notation. There's things that occur where, just think about it, if you use jazz concepts on production and think about how much is involved in production. And we haven't even gotten to the modern technology yet. We're talking about AI and what that's going to entail for art. But it's already creeping its way in through spectral processing systems. So, but at least it's not like completely doing everything like people are concerned about. And, it's hard to say what's going to happen with all that. But getting back on the topic, there's just so much that can go on with the research into music. But the game of nudging is people fall into things and then they keep growing that. It's almost like a seed. We go from the nudging metaphor to now a seed metaphor, where somebody's discovered this thing that can occur and they act like it's a very important, significant structure. So they're appropriating this structure as a solid structure. So that's why you could hear things that work in hip hop where they're just like these loops of these sound bites. There's just some random ad lib portion, but to the person who's looping it, they heard something that captured their imagination and captivated them to make them want to embellish on this notion of this going on in this loop. So that's the whole thing of nudging around to develop and push forward with creative concepts. And that's why the music explorative system is so powerful. I mean, you can get in your own loop and in your own world with just all that. But getting back to hit songs, we can clearly see in a lot of the popular hits, you have these cutouts of like almost like an avatar of the artist themselves or an impersonation of the artist themselves. If you listen to the pop version of the artist, you're hearing the all-inclusive everything bundle, but not as extreme. So that's basically the entire point of this video. It's just the concept of how so many hits include the composite of what the artist is about. Now, with me, it's a little more tricky because I do engineering, I do vocals, I perform the drums on my tracks, I perform every instrument. So I have an intimate relationship with so much, and this includes symphonic stuff, and this includes the mixing and arranging. And if you think about it, this is something you really have to be older to appreciate the work that is entailed and involved in mixing all these things. Even though the output, it becomes numb to the ears. Whatever the person does doesn't really matter. What matters is the output ultimately. But with all the things going on behind the scenes are really mind-boggling sometimes. So anyways, that's just a thought on how hits reflect the overall artist, and then the next, it could even be a time that the artist is going through. That hit reflects everything that they're going through as a sort of a core start to a ripple effect to the rest of their material.